Monster is the latest film by Koreeda Hirozaku. I tried. And it sort of follows these two young Japanese boys finding themselves in this strange situation which has various different perspectives. And the movie is segmented in 3 of these different perspectives, starting off with one of the boys' mothers, then going into one of their teachers' perspectives, and then going into one of the boys' perspectives. So throughout the film, us as the audience are trying to determine what we think is the truth. More or less, that's roughly what the movie is about. So I admired the hell out of a lot of aspects of this movie. It's clearly a very well-crafted film. This director has made many movies before this, and while I haven't seen any of his films until now, I'm by no means surprised that he is somewhat of a seasoned veteran filmmaker. A lot of these scenes seem very meticulous in their direction, and there's really this quiet, thought-provoking vibe going over the entire thing that seems to be executed pretty perfectly, at least as far as what this director was going for. The performances are all really great, especially from the child actors, actually. But I guess what I'm getting at is, while I respected this movie quite a bit, I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it very much. The first half of this movie, I was pretty much on board and thought that it was pretty fascinating, but I can't really say that any of the characters stood out to me or were that easy to connect to. I think these characters may have worked really well in another movie, but as far as carrying an extremely quiet, slow-paced movie that is only 2 hours long but feels almost 3 hours long, at least it did to me, I don't think they really served that very well. This movie is also clearly taking a lot from Kurosawa's Rashomon, which is a film I fucking love. That movie is also analyzing a certain scenario from various different perspectives while us, the audience, try to piece together what's real and what's not. Except that movie, I guess the stakes with that situation are a lot higher, and the characters all have these really striking, memorable personalities. Whereas here, a lot of the characters feel very one note and kind of monotone, and even though you see them fluctuate into different states of emotion throughout the movie, and you see them push to some really dramatic places, I don't think it's played up to the degree that it maybe should be for a movie like this. And this movie is by no means trying to be an extremely over-the-top dramatic film. It is going for that quiet, more somber, thought-provoking vibe. And that's great, but if that's the case, I think you should have maybe trimmed a lot of the fat off of this movie. And while the cinematography is undeniably pretty to look at, it's also nowhere near exceptional, except for maybe 1 or 2 images that I'd say are somewhat memorable. And even into the later parts of the film, there were scenes and moments that I found somewhat captivating, but by that point, I was just really tired. And again, I really do admire a lot about the filmmaking here. I just don't think that style of film really fits this plot all that well. And that could be entirely a personal taste thing. I could totally see many people really loving this movie, and I know a lot of people are really loving this movie. Actually, as I was walking out of the theater, there was an older gentleman who asked me what I thought of the film, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said that he had actually already seen it before at a film festival, and he felt the need to drag his friend to the theater to go see it. So clearly it's really hitting for some people and really connecting with certain audience members. I just wish I was one of those audience members who could have enjoyed it, but bottom line, I gotta be honest here, I just was pretty bored throughout most of this movie. And there are a lot of other movies that are even up to like 3.5, 4 hours that are equally as slow that I found to be a lot more interesting. Like, I'm a really big fan of filmmakers like Andrei Tarkovsky, and his film Andrei Rublev is like a 3.5 hour black and white biopic about a Russian painter that's extremely slow paced, but in the end it just paid off so amazingly and gave me this really spiritual, artistic experience. Whereas this movie, while I think what it's saying is really important and even really beautiful to an extent, I don't think it all paid off or hit close to home in the way that it wanted to with me. That doesn't change the fact that across the board, this is a well-refined work of art, and I do recommend it if this sounds like a movie that you would enjoy. Which is why overall, I would give Monster a mild 6 out of 10. Probably will never watch.